the RPG Maker General Podcast, or the rpgmgp. You know what they say, ain't no party like an adventuring party. Hello everyone, and welcome to the RPG Maker General Podcast, or the rpgmgp, your one-stop shop for everything RPG Maker. This is Cody, a.k.a. Marpix, and with me today are Mono.
Hello.
Blue Sky Robin.
We lost the pre-show footage.
The Red Mage.
Good morning.
And from Evil Guacamole Gaming, it's Brad.
Yeah! I'm the Devil's Avocado.
Yes. So, a little bit of news from Yanfly today. I'm going to need your guys' help to understand this properly. He has a new plugin, and it's called Standard Turn Battle, which sounds like it's just the standard turn battle system that's already in the Maker. So, what the heck's going on with this?
No, it's not. Okay, here's the thing. It's like that, except it's not. Okay,
it's exactly like this, only better.
Okay, basically it's like sort of a mix between the default one and charge turn battle. So what it does is like it arranges everyone's from like highest speed to lowest, right? But like it does that for one turn, and they can do whatever action they want instantly at that time, depending on their speed. And then once everyone's gotten like one turn, like that turn's done, they move on to the next turn.
Okay, so instead of it being like your team and then the enemy team, everybody just goes on one turn sorted by agility or speed or whatever.
Yeah, sort of like that game we never played, Pokemon.
Yeah. The game that no one has played.
An unpopular game.
The emphasis here is like instantaneous. So you act as you select your action. But that can be a change to the next turn is essentially the two big parts of that.
Okay.
It's a turn battle system.
Okay.
Standard.
So instead of like Dragon Warrior where you select everyone's actions and everything happens, it's one at a time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Interesting.
So
I guess
maybe
it is the same but better.
Makes the battles feel more alive, I guess.
It's a different system.
I kind of like it. I like seeing stuff happen instead of like menu. Okay, now let's watch the movie unfold.
Let's just sit back and watch things happen.
What, you guys don't like games that play themselves?
No, that's why I hated Final Fantasy XII.
And then you can use this one with the what was the last one that he had? The display.
Thing.
Yeah, and then so you can see it'll be like in the upper corner, or I think you can have it on the side too, so you can see what's going on. But if you don't use that, you can have it like list on the side, like just text this person, this person, this person. So you can see what's going on, or you can turn it off and it can just be who the hell knows is going.
That'll keep it exciting for sure.
Who the hell knows it?
You know, I think having all the meters and stuff, you know, on display has affected developers' motivation to balance games. Because, you know, back in the day, I would know that a goblin had exactly 28 HP because my fighter couldn't kill it by doing 25. I would need my white mage to also whack him in the head and do like 4 or 5 to kill him. And then, you know, with agility, well, I know my healer's fast, but is he faster than the berserker that I've never encountered before? And then you kind of build your own knowledge base as a player.
Yep, and now everything is conveniently on a nicely placed HUD.
Yeah, it kind of makes you, like, just look at all these bars than the game. Like, I don't know.
Are you suggesting we know too much now?
Yeah, actually.
I'm suggesting we switch to cookie clicker.
God.
I think part of the reality of that is the internet. Like, I mean, I don't think the internet is what made this change happen, but the reason why we aren't going back is because if anyone wanted to, they can just access a document online that gives you all of that information, and you wouldn't have to learn it. And it makes that part less interesting.
Well, that's true. My copy of Final Fantasy I did come with a very nice infograph of every monster in the game. all of their hit points, their attack, their defense, what spells they were weak to, etc. So it's not like it hasn't been in the game before. You just had to reference it elsewhere. But now it's just like on screen.
And that's what makes games exciting, reference charts.
Yes.
I go back to the Final Fantasy Legends series for that kind of stuff, because it's, when you put it inside the game, it's just like how with the absence of manuals, they have to put more story into the beginning of the game and slow things down a bit. By having it as an outside reference, then you aren't cluttering the screen with all these kinds of things. You have your list of spells in Final Fantasy Legend 3. You have the map. I love that kind of stuff. It makes it seem more real as opposed to, I'm just looking at the screen. Now you have a map. You have a spell list. What spells am I going to craft when I get my elemental stones?
But Cody, I need to see how my characters feel and how hungry they are on screen.
I need to know that they can carry 50 glass swords.
I need to play The Sims of the RPG.
Yeah, but there was another plugin also, or another big one,
damage
I would say.
Time, extended damage over time.
That one looks pretty good, especially since it kind of fixes the whole poison thing.
So does it essentially add Toxic from Pokemon, or are there more options than that?
Alright, because the default is like damage over time is based on percentage, and that's the default. There's no options, and it's kind of lame, and there's no flexibility with that. Yanfly's new thing adds more flexibility. You can now base your poison damage on stats, I guess, or something, or you can have flat damage or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, because one of the big issues was since it's poison, well, specifically poison is based on max HP. If you had an enemy that had a lot of HP, then it would be burning a lot of damage as the turns go on. So with this,
that can work the other direction too. If you have a character that has a lot of HP.
Exactly, and that's what makes it annoying. I guess both ways. It makes it easier, but it also can make it annoying. So here you can make it based on the magic attack of the unit, or another stat that you want it to, or you could make it flat, just a flat damage if you have kind of very set in stone, HPs, or if you wanted to just do the specific amount or something, you can do that.
Question
That's
about
neat.
that, on how it works. Would it be possible to base it on the poison damage is such and such based on how the magic value of the attacker, or the amount of damage done with the attack that poisoned?
I think it's a formula creator. So
So probably then.
So you
So
can
probably
probably you could. It's modular. This isn't specifically for poison, but you could do it for a regen spell, or just anything that does has an effect over multiple turns.
Nice.
Cool.
Nice.
I can dig it.
So what I'm hearing, though, is that because poison can now be a fixed amount, it now means that you can poison bosses without them just dropping dead in 8 turns.
Yes, that's a good thing.
Yeah, one thing I saw that somebody had done in the general, and this was fucking a year ago, is they made their poison spell inflict 2 different poison states at the same time. On minions, it was a 10% health debuff, and then on bosses, it was only a 1%. And then bosses were immune to the minion one, and then minions were immune to the boss one. So it was still one spell, but it was actually really helpful against minions, and just didn't do... I mean, it helped against bosses, but it wasn't, game-breaking.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but that was also tedious to do.
Well, yeah, but it is clever, and it did work, but then Yanfly just fixed it all for us, like he always does. Just here you go, buddies. I got you.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course he does, because he has 2 Skynets working under him. So.
Still waiting for that plugin that makes your game for you.
Don't you like games that make themselves?
My favorite kind.
No, he's gonna make a plugin that turns your game sentient.
Always learning.
Oh, God.
Now all the games are Undertale.
And when everything is Undertale, no one will be.
Right, nothing is.
And that's the theme of the next Pixar movie.
Oh no.
Oh no.
You mean the Incredibles 2?
No.
Yes.
Have you guys seen? Because I just saw Power Rangers this past weekend, and they had a trailer for the new Cars movie coming out.
Is that the hyper
Oh,
realistic
you mean
one?
too edgy for me cars?
Yeah, no, it's they do kind of a bait and switch. Like, it looks realistic, but like after that super NASCAR part, it goes back to the normal graphics. You just saw the normal graphics going really fast, is all. And so Lightning McQueen does crash. Like, that was Lightning McQueen. The whole movie is kind of like Skyfall with James Bond, where, like, you're old, you're busted, you can't win, don't race. And he's like, screw all of you, I'm going to race anyway. Like, I have not seen a Cars movie, but this one I think might be good.
Oh, so it's also Rocky 4.
Yeah. It's like, this is every, like, beyond the second sequel sports movie, like the retirement movie, where you should
Right.
retire.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that this will be the last movie in the series, of course, because this stupid franchise makes bank, but we're getting off topic.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a fourth car movie starring the son of Lightning McQueen.
I don't want to get into like that whole like birthing thing with cars. Can we just move on to the topic, please?
Well, I hadn't thought about that until now.
What is the topic today, Cody?
So the topic today is party composition. With most RPGs, you have a diverse set of characters. Normally you can switch some in and switch others out. And the more you have, the harder it is to balance a game. I think that's both gameplay-wise and story-wise, because you have to not only find ways for these people to stand out in combat, you have to find ways to tell their stories and make people care about them. I wanted to start off the topic simply by going back to Final Fantasy I. The game has been beaten every which way from Sunday. No one will say it's easy, but it's fair. You can take a solo white mage and go through the entire game if you want. But I think anyone who has played it will agree that if you don't have a fighter in your party, you're making things really hard for yourself. So there's kind of a soft requirement for a fighter, because they're the only ones after the first 3 towns or so that can equip the heavy armor and wield the big weapons, give you consistent damage, and not, die randomly to some critical hit.
As I'm sure everyone knows by my moniker, the Red Mage is like my favorite class. And basically, yeah, once you hit Melmond, so whenever you have given the dynamite to Eric, or the nitro powder, depending on whatever game you're playing, and you can leave, and you're starting to fight the fiends, that's the first town where steel armor is available. That's the first armor that the fighter can equip that the Red Mage cannot. That area is like one of the biggest difficulty spikes for solo players, because yeah, that's where your fighter gets his beefy armor for the first time. So it is a lot more difficult if you play without a fighter. My first party didn't have one, and so when I played the game the second time and I had one, I was like, wow, this is so much easier with it. So yeah, no, Melmond is like the first real like difficulty spike if you don't have a fighter, because exactly what Cody just said. The fighter gets the armor. If you ain't got the fighter, you don't got the armor.
Yep.
What are you talking about, Red Mage? A Red Mage is just a fighter, except different. Yeah,
He's just a fighter. Only he can cast spells and is better in every way possible. I wish.
But can the Red Mage wield swords two-fisted monkey style?
No, but he can, kill an
I
entire
remember that
group.
comic.
That was a great comic. You can't kill an entire group with Fire 2 or Fire 3. Fuck you, warrior fighter. You can't do that.
A wizard is just a fighter that casts spells. A priest is
What?
just a fighter that heals things.
In Robin's world, everything is just a fighter.
Yeah.
A fighter is
Oh,
just
God.
a fighter that fights.
Mages have the fight command. Fighters don't have the magic command. Deepest floor.
Dun dun dun.
God.
Now, you had mentioned earlier, Cody, that the more characters that you have in a game, the harder it becomes to balance.
Yeah.
I want you to know that there is a game out there that has 720 different playable characters.
Holy shit!
Yep.
801 actually.
Did it go up? Shit.
Well, it's on the
Oh no,
moon,
802.
right?
It is 802. Shit. Yeah. Damn it. My joke is ruined. Anyway, it's Pokemon.
Only about 80 of them are unbalanced.
Only
Only
10% of the
80.
Pokedex is broken.
Only about 10% are completely OP and break the game.
I like my odds.
Only 80 are OP, and only 1/3 is usable because evolutions.
Yeah, but I do agree with that sentiment though, because I remember back in the day like Pokemon Red and all that, especially Gold and Silver, because Gold and Silver, I made even a nice graph in Podcast 6 for how the gym leaders scaled up so gently because there were so many in Gold and Silver, but any party could beat the game, like literally any party if they were leveled up high enough, and when you have such a diverse cast like that, I think it helps your replayability if you make the game easier rather than harder, because that makes it more enjoyable for people.
That's exactly why Nuzlocke runs exist.
It's true. To add some difficulty to it. But
Yeah, you can
no,
always artificially make games more difficult. Not so easy to do the other way around.
Yeah.
That's true.
Pokemon also did something really cool where, in my first run, I was an idiot. I had Charizard, Vaporeon, and Pidgeotto, and then I died at the Elite Four because I ran out of moves. But I liked Charizard, whatever. But the game will try and subtly move you in directions, like Lieutenant Surge, I remember always being a big issue for me. You had to go, most people had to go catch a Diglett for that. But, getting Diglett and being Lieutenant Surge, if you liked Diglett, great. He stayed in your group. If you didn't like him, okay, you got your badge, you move on. But it encouraged you to try things out without, being too aggressive about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Sandstorm team runner like all the time. So I mean, Ground, Rock, and Steel are like my bread and butter. So I got Sandslash like right before Misty, or I guess Sandshrew. Evolve him into the god Pokemon Sandslash, and so Surge was never a problem for me. But Sandslash is like one of my favorite of all time. So, but the way that that Surge is also cool is like even if you don't grab Diglett, if you had like Bulbasaur or another grass type, something that's just resistant to lightning or electric, you'd be all right, probably.
Maybe.
I don't know if I recall ever getting Diglett. I got Diglett, but I don't think I recall using Diglett on that battle, just because it never really occurred to me. I just was like, well, I've got my guys. I'm just going to keep leveling them up.
Which is it's a viable tactic. I mean, pretty much anything you do in Pokemon can work. I know I ran a Shuckle once and just gave him all the DOT moves. And then the Held item then increased the damage of his DOT moves, and he would just beat people just through sheer perseverance because nothing could hurt him enough.
Yep. Don't fuckle with Shuckle.
It's true.
That's amazing.
I think, what I do think I had on my team was Jigglypuff, just because Jigglypuff's always been my favorite Pokemon. Actually, that might have been before that was the case, because it was Smash that made me decide that Jigglypuff was the best Pokemon.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But the thing about
Sleep can fuck a group up, and unlike in other games, bosses don't have immunity to status effects. So
Yep.
But the thing about Pokemon is like, it's kind of like tactics too, and I guess we can probably talk about tactics after this. But like, you can do, you can have like your team where it's like a specific type, or like run it like a gym leader where you kind of have your specific type.
Mm-hmm.
But the most efficient way is probably to have a balanced team, because then you don't have to like switch them out.
Yeah,
Arguably,
that's true.
I mean that's debatable, but like if you have one of each type, like there's certain types that are more efficient at fighting a lot of other types, like ice, or if not the ice type moves are like, because there are a lot of different types that have weakness to ice. Like I used to have like a Nidoking, and it would have like Ice Punch, and I could wreck almost most anything. But if you have like your balanced team, like once you get up, especially once you get up to the Elite Four, since you're fighting consecutive battles, you need that sort of diverse team that can kind of go with you through anything.
Yep. Otherwise, you're going to get hard walled by one of the Elite Four because they just own whatever type you're trying to mono with.
Just quickly before we transfer into tactics, it makes me think of Record Keeper, which I guess I'm going to have to bring up every time because it's interesting melding of a lot of things and making it applicable to phone app game. But the way they balance the fact that they have basically almost every character that was in a Final Fantasy game, including the end bosses. So they, they have Sephiroth and they have
Sephiroth, and Garland, and Kefka, and everybody.
Yep,
everybody.
Yep. And even some of the side characters like Leo from Final Fantasy VI. It's like, yeah, you played as him for like 3 minutes. Remember that guy? Yeah, he's in, but not
Perfect.
the Abominable Snowman. He's not in yet. The playable character, but like, Anyway, the way they balance things is that there's two big factors. One, whatever realm you're in, like whatever game that whatever the thing is from, gives you a 1.5 bonus to all of your stats. So that's pretty big. So it gives you reason to have good characters in all of the series. But again, if you just have really, really high level dudes in some other series, you can just kind of shove them there. It's what I do. If I don't, all my tactics characters are like between 80 and 99 level and are like mostly maxed out. So if I need to defeat something, it's just like, oh, okay, I guess they're going in. But they also have a real variety of what the characters can equip as far as abilities and stuff, and there's all sorts of different things that have to get done in missions. So that it ends up working out pretty well that you need to have a fair variety of characters leveled up.
That's true. The main problem I've got with Record Keeper, because I used to play, I kind of stopped lately, is just that like if you don't have somebody with like the defense and resistance buff, either Ishtola or Tyro are the main two, fights are pretty much impossible. Like they're mandatory, and it's stupid, and I hate it.
Yes, the weapons are very versatile. Like the gun arms that only 2 characters out of everyone can equip.
Nope, there's now 3 because there's Onion Knight.
Oh, there's
from
a
Final
third
Fantasy
one now.
3.
That's a lot of help.
Yep.
Third out of like what 100?
I'm
something like
waiting
that.
for them to include Dyne so that there can be a 4th.
He'll make it in eventually.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he'll
fine.
make it eventually.
Fucking goddamn it.
That's an old wound from Bravely Default, because like I've brought this up before. I'm gonna bring it up again because it literally killed my interest in the game. Like when you fight the elemental dragons to unlock the vampire class, they magically increase your weakness to fire or water or whatever. So you have to get your resistance back. And even if you're wearing equipment that resists this stuff, they remove that resistance and make it weakness through their ability that they use, every other turn. So you are required to have a certain class and the ability Spirit Ward. And you have to keep Spirit Ward up at all times to survive these fights. And and coming from Final Fantasy Tactics, I found that extremely frustrating because much like FF1, people have beaten FFT every way from Sunday. They've beaten it with an entire group of archers just using archer abilities. They've beat it with just Ramza just using archer abilities. So to go from that kind of freedom and replayability to, you must have Spirit Ward to ride this ride, it gets really fucking frustrating.
Yeah. I don't know if you made it like after that, but like the end bosses, like you have to have like this class with this setup and probably solo and everybody else dead because they're the only person that can do anything against them. like there's something with the vampire where you get like double your max hit points, and there's something where you regen like a certain percentage of your maximum hit points like every hit or every turn, and you have to have something else that like hits a lot of times so you get all that hit points back. And even then it's a guessing game because like if you go like one tick slower than the enemy, you lose. So it's just like I threw myself at these bosses for a while, couldn't figure it out, went online, and yeah, basically it's like, if you want to beat this boss, you have like 3 options. Here they are. And I was like, this is horseshit. Fuck this game. I did it anyway, though. But
Yeah, you have to pick your flavor of cheese. You don't just get to level up Butterfree until she can kill everything in Agatha's arsenal. You have to pick from your cheese.
yep, it's bullshit. I hate it.
God.
Fuck that noise.
Back to FFT again. Deldris isn't here, so I'm going to make fun of him because he's going to listen to the podcast. There's the part where you meet Mustadio and you go to Galg Machine City, but then when you try to leave, there's a battle. It's got the two thieves, the two archers, the two summoners. It's raining. It's that battle.
Yeah.
He couldn't beat it. He got stuck on it for over a month. And then I come over to his house. He's like, Cody, I can't do this thing, blah, blah, blah. And I look at his characters like, they're crap. Like the summoner has thief abilities or whatever. And he has like one or two abilities for each class. There's scattershot. So I'm looking. I get him all optimized as best I can because he has no fucking money. I go into the battle, and I win it first try. Like, he got stuck on it for a month, but me, I got it done. Now, it all hinged on one very lucky steel heart that I happened to get, #swag, whatever. But the important thing is, because FFT was purposefully made easy, any party can beat the game. And I like that message because no matter how you want to, if you're smart, if you're lucky, that's an option. And it wasn't in Bravely Default.
Yep, it's true. I mean, in tactics, I mean, the very first party that I beat the game with, and this was just because I was just kind of messing around and I wanted to see, like, all the unlocks, because I'd never seen them all before, and I got to the mime, and I was like, this is really cool. And then one of my characters happened to be a dancer, and, like, she would do her damage dance, and then he mimicked it, and I was like, aw, shit. Immediately, all four other characters became dancers, and I just Wisnabist my way through the entire game without moving from the square I started in.
Lols.
That was excellent.
Hey, you're really cutting
Stupid,
the rug.
but excellent. Yeah. On my opponent's flesh.
There's got to be a Bring It On reference that's relevant here or something.
Just put up so you think
Show me your move.
So you think you can dance?
Yeah.
That game is great, though, just because you have the sheer number. Because I also ran I ran the Pokemon build where Ramza was a mediator, and I just had a team of monsters along with them, too.
I read all the guides back in the day about, solo Ramza challenges and the solo single class challenges, and there was one where, like, it was the Game Shark challenges. So someone Game Sharked Ramza to be a holy sword user, so of course he beat the game really easily. But
yeah.
There was also one where Malik's class, which is the Untruth, someone beat the game with Ramza's Untruth, but not Rafa's Truth. That is still effing impossible. The other one, though, is that someone beat it with Ramza as a red chocobo. Like, could not equip weapons or armor, but he had Choco Meteor, and that's what was important.
Yeah, that's all that you need.
Choco Meteor is pretty amazing. I ran monsters my first time through. Red Chocobo was a common, as was Mind Flares. Because the Mind Flares ability really fucked people up. I think monsters would have been a lot more viable if that monster ability thing really worked like it said in the description, where you could be 3 squares away. And also if it was active while someone was dead, so that one pig could use it to revive on somebody that had that ability when they were dead.
Yeah.
Because that was one of the third pig's secret ability was a full life ability, but like if the person who had that ability was dead, he couldn't use it on them to revive them.
You're talking about Please Eat, which is the Uribo's ability.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, and what I'm going to ask you is, why would you sacrifice your Uribo to Please Eat when you can kill them and get delicious chantages?
I'm thinking about it now.
Your allies.
I'm trying to remember. I guess I forgot that the Please Eat came with the whole, like, the guy died.
This kills the crab.
God. Yeah.
I mean, as far though as it relates to try to, like, I don't know, keep it RPG Maker friendly. I mean, with stuff like this, if you're gonna have, because I'm about to jump into RPG Maker games here. If you're gonna have a very large cast, you need to make sure that the game is easy enough that it is viable to use just about any combination of characters. Otherwise, people are going to want to use their favorites, and then they're not going to be able to. So one game that comes to mind with that, and I kind of ranted about this a little bit, is Lisa, where there is a very large cast of characters, and for the most part, everybody's pretty viable. People all have their own, strengths and weaknesses. But then there are characters that are just like blatantly better or just blatantly worse than others, and there's no balancing there. Because there's a character called Jack. He's like a kid, and he does magic, like street magic. But he's got a thing called Juggle, where he just throws stuff into the air and fire rains down from above. Doesn't make any sense, but it hits the entire enemy team, and it does a crap ton of damage. Nobody else has an ability like that except the main character. So, like, if you don't have Jack on your team, you're basically just gimping yourself in the entire way that the game works. So, I don't know. Stuff like that kind of just bothers me, that there's just a character that, I mean, he's not mandatory by any means, but if you don't have him in your team, the game is definitely harder.
So kind of like the fighter from FF1, where it's a soft requirement. You're causing yourself pain if you don't. Exactly.
Yeah, because there's like one fight a little bit at ways after you get him that, like, I lost a couple of times my first run through of Lisa because I didn't have him, or no, I had him, I just didn't use him because I was like, I don't want this fucking kid on my team. I got like huge beefy martial artists. All right, that's all that I need, and it wasn't, as a matter of fact. So.
I thought Lisa had the thing where, like, your party members weren't exactly a thing you chose, right? Because, like,
there's like 20-something characters, and you can just swap them in and out at the save points, or even from the menu, I think, maybe.
Because, like, from what I understood, like, there were points where you couldn't bring them along or something like that.
There are, but they're not very. Yeah, those aren't very common.
Or something.
I think I see the problem that you're having, or that you're suggesting, is unlike the fighter in FF1, is that, like, having 4 fighters in FF1 would make things a lot more difficult than a diverse crew, even though you really need at least one. While if you had multiple copies of Jack and Lisa, the game would be even more broken.
Yeah, it'd be a slurfest.
Yeah. So that means there's a serious balance issue. Like, FF1 kind of had it balanced. Like, you kind of needed that fighter, but it's not like that was the only thing you needed.
Right.
That reminds me of something I forgot to bring up, but Breath of Death 7, my favorite example of this. So the second party member you get is your healer, and if you give them the right perks and the right spells, your healer is your healer, of course. They also, for a time, do the most damage. They also do the most damage with magic. And so basically, they outclass every other party member. They do more physical damage, they do more magic damage, and they're your healer. So the whole game is balanced around, are you going to use their turn to heal your party, or are you going to try and kill the shit out of these enemies? So if you had 4 of these healers in your party, you would be unstoppable.
Well, you only get the one healer, don't you?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but it's still a balance issue because they outshine and outclass everybody else. That's what bothers me about RPGs and also anime, but that's not what this podcast is about. Fuck off, Goku.
Well, it's entirely possible, though, that you could make a game intended to be unbalanced, that you had to have that choice, especially if it was a main character that was this healer, that you always had that character there, right, and was the only, like, healer. Then it makes that choice of heal or attack a lot more important. So you could use that on purpose to have unbalanced characters that still required other characters to exist, because, you still need to heal, and there's only so much that this overpowered character can actually do, because they only have so many turns.
So the Lich, torches your whole party with fire, and they're hurt, and then Howie Mandel comes up and he's like, okay, so the banker says, you might kill the Lich this turn. Heal or no heal?
Kinda, yeah, actually.
That's pretty good. That's pretty strong, Cody.
Thank you.
I was gonna butt in with something stupider than that, but yeah, you took it.
Yeah.
All right, if I could interject for a moment, I think if I took a 10,000-foot view here and tried to figure out, like, I think on one hand for the party, you have games that do it like two ways. You have the game that does it in class systems, like in some Final Fantasies, like Tactics and 1. And then you have games that are more individual based, where you have characters that are individuals and they have their special abilities. Also, I guess it's kind of in Tactics too. But you have like specific characters that have their specific abilities and their own traits and their own things. And I think where you get where Tactics and Legends shines is that you have classes, but for the most part, they're all the same. And there's nothing extraordinary about them except their classes, and that's what makes the characters different. Whereas if you have individuals, those individuals can be broken, even if they're similar to other characters that sort of do the same thing, but they can be broken because they're sort of tailored in their, you know, traits and things. And where you have to balance the game is, I guess you kind of go either of those two routes, or you blend them, where you have the classes that are, you know, kind of set in stone, and it's easier to balance the broad areas versus the special individual characters that can have these awesome abilities, but can break the game and possibly make it lopsided in terms of who you choose.
Yeah, I know that like with FF6 and Suikoden, the characters' abilities in FF6, you know, they're pretty cool, and everyone gets to show them off at some point. You know, you get to see Sketch and Rage and Runic and Steel in action, like they're kind of required for the game. But they don't break it the way the Magicite does, and you can put any Magicite on anybody. And then in Suikoden, it's kind of the same thing. Most of the characters are largely interchangeable, and what matters is what runes you put on them. And some characters have runes that are set in stone, but they're, you know, usually made better to compensate, like they have more attack power, or they're weaker because they have a special rune that's really good, or they have combination attacks with other people that are really strong.
Yeah, because one thing, I mean, because in Final Fantasy VI, for example, like my uncle's the one who like got me into RPGs in general, and so like he always ran 6 with Cyan and Sabin and then 2 other people, because he was just convinced they had like the best abilities. Which, to be fair, they're both really good abilities to have. But like I always ran with Edgar because he's my boy. But I had like all these Magicite on him, and so he was doing like so much more damage on my game than he was on my uncle's game, because he didn't really pay as close of attention to the Magicite. He was just getting it for the magic, not for the stat boosts. So by the end of the game, I was just like, you know, basically just give Edgar the offering and the Genji glove, and then give him 2 swords, and then just watch him just, you know, take out an entire enemy team on one turn, because he was that good. And he was like, my Edgar isn't anywhere near that good. I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
You better restart the game if you want this power.
It's true.
Not in personnel, kid.
But getting on to, you know, what was mentioned too before, as far as like having like characters that are similar but do things slightly different, which can eclipse another character. This is where I mentioned before the cast. I've got a short Final Fantasy X rant here. The source of this rant is Captain Waka over here. All right, Tidus's whole job is to hit fast land-based characters. Okay, cool. Waka, his whole thing is to hit airborne characters, who basically are just land-based characters with more evasion. Guess what Waka can do? Hit the land-based characters. Guess what fucking ability Waka can get for his weapon really early on? Piercing. You know what that does? That ignores all the armor buffs. You know who does that normally? Auron. You're going to replace both Tidus and Auron with Waka. He's a little bit weaker. Doesn't matter. He still kills everything because he's Waka. Fuck that guy. I love Waka, though. He's actually like one of my favorite characters in that game. But the way that he just eclipsed everybody. Yeah.
Now, is Tidus required in your party so you get to watch him just cry as he becomes more and more useless?
I don't know. I didn't have him on my team.
Not required, is he? Right?
Well, no. The beauty of FF10 is the fact that you can swap any member of your team in battle at any time. Like, you can only have 3 out, but if they're active team members, like, they can come in at any point. So you don't have to, like, set up at a save point what you think you're going to need for the whole mission or whatever. In fact,
Yeah.
every new random
so
encounter, you can swap things
you don't
out.
actually need Titus around then, right?
Nope, you can completely ignore him.
Yeah,
Which
just
I
leave
did.
him in the back where he deserves.
Honestly, the only character that I guess I just never noticed that Waka could do the armor breaking thing, and also
Yeah.
Oran was just always a lot of damage anyway, so it's like,
Yeah.
hell yeah. The only character that felt redundant solidly was what's the Ronzo, the
Kimari. Yeah.
Kimari. It's like,
Yeah, no one uses him. Like, it's
I did.
bad.
I did.
I mean, it's okay.
Well, here's the thing about Kimari. All right, his whole special ability is blue magic. He copies the
Yeah.
stats of other things. That's reflected in his sphere grid because once you get through like his very small initial one, he can go down like Oren's path, Waka's path, or somebody else's path, and you get to choose which niche you need to fill with him. So that's what he's good for. So I just had 2 Wakas rolling around. The person who felt redundant to me was Lulu, because once Yuna gets into the black magic thing, then she's got white magic, black magic, and summons, whereas Lulu has white magic and black magic with no summons. So Yuna's just better in that area.
But Lulu has better dress sense.
Well, that's true. That is true.
and
She
better
has
hips.
better assets. That's
But
a
I don't play my
refuse
games
to
for eye
even
candy.
consider the idea that Lulu would be irrelevant because she was like my favorite character.
Yeah, no, and that's completely understandable.
It's like, oh, of course she's relevant. I don't care.
I heard you talking shit about my waifu.
Yeah, pretty much.
But no, I mean that was just kind of my interpretation. Because after a while, I just kind of stopped paying attention to the characters as characters, and they were just, okay, what's the most efficient stat block? Waka, and then Kimari Waka, done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this kind of reminds me of, I mentioned this, I think, on the last cast with Deldris. We were talking, this isn't like specifically combat related, but character related, and who you choose like in your party. And also in this discussion, we're talking about, not our waifus, but just characters we like, and how that affects your choice of who you choose in the game. Because you can have characters that are like obviously better, or you can make them obviously better in the game, but it's like sometimes you want the specific character just because you like them purely for personal reasons, and that definitely affects your characters. And with Deldris, I was talking about the choice between like which of your characters has to die, right? And so in my situation, it was like Kaiden or Ashley in Mass Effect 1.
Mhm.
And I was like really connected with this character, and I was trying to pursue this specific goal in the story, so I had to keep them alive. But then I also really liked this other character just because he was with me from the beginning and we were cool. And then so it creates this really hard story thing for me. But then if you don't like the character, it's like, oh yeah, this is easy. Don't even think about it twice, right?
Mhm.
So it's like that really affects your party composition too. Even if the characters are sort of similar or can do similar things, but one person can do one thing better, it's like, but I like this other person, even if they're not as good.
Yep.
That really changes things up too. And one thing you got to balance. Even if one character is just like magnitude's better, can do more damage, can do more whatever, it's like, if they're not
Yeah.
likable, you may not play as them or use them.
That
Yeah,
was-
I know games where like I only have a character because like, well, one, high rarity, and another is because like she's really cute even though her stats are technically really bad. I mean, like, okay, because like she's supposed to be like a damage dealer, but she's also like a crit machine, sort
Who's
of.
this?
Yeah, who are we talking
Uh,
about here?
Which waifu is this?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's like she has a weird name. Mysterious Heroine X Alter or something. I don't know. Anyway, she's like,
What game is this?
fuck. It's like Fate Grand Order. It's like,
Oh, Fate.
okay.
Okay.
yeah,
Alright, I'm
yeah.
on
It's
board.
like she has a weird situation because like she's a berserker class, and berserkers are normally high damage dealers, specializes in red damage attacks, but like her setup's weird because like half of her attacks are green, which are like the lowest damage and are supposed to help with criticals, right? And her skills are like neither for damage dealing or helping with criticals. So she has this terrible midway between the two bridges, right?
She's a red mage.
No, she's a failed red mage.
Ooh.
Step off.
She's a red mage.
She's yeah. she's
I'm sassing.
yeah, it's pretty sad because she has a good character design and she has good waifu qualities, so I still keep her around and train her up, but like it's kind of sad that her skill set's not that great.
Yeah.
I don't know
But-
enough about the game, but it kind of reminds me of like there's ways to make shit work. Like usually, if it's good, this is slightly out of purview, but it's still basically an RPG. It's Fallout 3. I definitely use the laser rifles, which most people are like, "Oh, laser rifles are useless. They're just shitty plasma rifles." But as well as saying, "Oh, crit. There's no point in doing crits because it won't do enough." Well, if you have a weapon that fires a ton, also has a higher likelihood of getting crits, and you boost your crit damage and everything, you're basically doing crits like a third of the time, shooting a bunch, and it's turning everyone into dust. Like, it just kind of started out with that. I was like, lasers are cool, And then I figured out the way to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, my
Yeah.
Fallout 3 build was melee is cool, and then I found the vampire people like, this sword is cool, and then by the end of it I had a ninja. Not really what I wanted going into the game, but that's what I ended up with.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes the opposite happens where like you just get something. It's like, oh, okay, I'll try this for a little bit, and then you stick with it forever.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good thing that happens. But like sometimes the bad things happen. It's terrible.
Yeah, that's why I would argue again for a game being easier rather than harder, because you want people to enjoy their time. And if my preferred method is Charmander for half the game, that's great.
Yeah, because I mean, even like, going back to Final Fantasy Tactics just for a moment, like when you get TG Sid on your team, he's better than everyone. like everyone. And like I use him in one battle, I'm like, I feel bad using this guy. So then I didn't use him anymore.
I used to like to take him out into random battles and just have him in a chocobo and just be like, fucking bring it, And of course, those random battles were usually leveled to the level, but I could still make it happen.
Yep. Thunder God Sid, man.
That reminds me of Worker 8. Like, remember, like, I used to think Worker 8 was terrible because all his skills used up his HP.
Yeah.
Love Worker
And, like,
8.
you couldn't heal him properly. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Because he had zero faith, so you couldn't.
Yeah,
you
he
couldn't
had
heal him at
zero
all.
faith and you couldn't heal him properly. And I thought he was trash until I realized that one of his moves was like a laser that shot across the map and it was
Yeah.
like super long range. It was like, wow. Deals like nearly fatal damage. It's great.
Final Fantasy Tactics definitely had some moves that were like completely useless, though. Worker 8 had, like, basically he did the same damage with all his attacks, if I recall correctly. But
think
one
so.
of them was the laser that went across the entire screen. Why would you use anything else? Like, even if you were next to somebody, I would move away and then use the laser, because then they wouldn't counter.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's the
Yes.
best part about like the solo Ramsa challenges is that people find methods, like because with the solo Ramsa monk, monks have wave fist, earth slash, and chakra. So you have your utility ranged attack, your straight line ranged attack, and then your heal for most of your HP, and then you have punching people. But if you ever get surrounded, you have spin fist.
Yeah. Every now and then you spin fist. Yeah, that's the trap there, is that generally speaking, if you're trying to get a monk, you don't need spin fist. Just keep saving up till you get something useful, like chakra, which is one of the most awesome things in the early game, is that, hey, look, healing and MP healing can be shared, and no MP costs for it. So...
And instant.
And no casting
And instant.
time.
Yep.
Yeah. Monks are overpowered in that game.
Yeah, you
Not-
combine that with the squire
Well, not
abilities,
really, it
because
depends. Like,
the healing is
like-
based on your attack. So if you do accumulate over and over, your healing goes up.
Yep.
yeah,
So-
but like the thing about monks is like they have this huge issue with like, I have the high ground, Anakin. They have to be on level ground for most of their shit to work,
Yeah.
Yep.
that's
True.
which is like what not a lot of maps are.
Yeah, I like the waterfall.
Oh yes, that waterfall. The infamous waterfall where I always step on that poison trap for some reason. It's like all of my team is like magnetized to that trap.
I was gonna kind of branch off a little bit because it's something we always touch on a little bit in a lot of our talks too. So I'm just kind of feeling the room. Do we prefer games like Pokemon, Lisa, Suikoden, where you've got a whole mess of characters that have their own identities, or stuff like Dragon Quest III, Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy 1, where you can kind of create and customize the character to your personal liking? Where their abilities are kind of set up to you what you want. Because I'm definitely a fan of the latter. Despite liking characters and liking their personalities and all that, if I'm in a game, I mean, Earthrealm Odyssey is like my favorite thing. But you can like create your characters, create your party in the exact way that you want them to be. But then you can also kind of customize their look, give them their own name, and there's that slight difference there between the two.
I will say that, being the gigantic fanboy of FFL and Saga that I am, with all due respect to writers, and I hope to be one day, I don't think that anything they will put in a game will match what I am capable of imagining. Like, I play RPGs to imagine, to put myself in those scenarios. So, as much as I like the story of Suikoden, the sweeping drama, as much as I like FF6 and its backstories and stuff, if I'm gonna play an RPG, for like a 40-hour quest, I kind of want it to be more my quest than someone else's.
Personally, I always get really invested in characters. Honestly, it's a trouble when there's a lot of characters, because I want all of my characters that I like to be involved. And this was a real issue I had with FF8, is even though it had only a few characters, I actually really liked a lot of them. I know this is not necessarily something that's universal. Like, there are definitely people that seem to hate every character in Final Fantasy VIII. But I had characters I liked more than others, but I don't think there was any character that I disliked. Maybe Zell a little was like...
He was my favorite.
That's fine. But, other than that, I was like, yeah... I mean, I was fairly young at the time. It's like, Squall's all, cool. Yeah, I mean, now I'm like, what a loser. Not like a loser, but, what a dorky character that's, so broody. It's like, oh, so cool. But I totally bought it. I still like him as a character. It's like, I don't look at him as cool anymore. I liked all three girl characters. That they, besides being cute, they were really interesting, full-out characters. I thought also, what's his not Vincent. I'm thinking wrong guns. Damn it, Record Keeper.
Irving.
Irving. Yeah, he was like my favorite guy in the game because he was like all cool with a trench coat and guns. This did come out around 98, so that's or 99, so that's a little probably would have been worrying for teachers or something, even though that turns out to be a misunderstanding of everything that happened then. But that's another subject entirely. But like, you know, so there's all these cool characters, but I can only play as 3 at a time.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a bit of dysphoria there when you have a large party, but only a couple can do anything.
Yeah, I agree with Brad on the like character thing. Like if you have too many, it's hard to care for all of them. Like that's why I have a problem with Suikoden. Like I know they're good games. I know there's a lot of people that love them. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But like I can't keep up with everyone. Like okay, you have your main character, you have his small group, his starting group, and then you meet a whole bunch of other guys along the way, right? And like, cause like you have your 108 warriors, all the warriors, and like by the end of the game, you have like maybe at least 90 of them, right? By the end of the game, you have like 80, 90, or however many. I can't care for that many, right?
Yep. You can't care for all 108 stars of Destiny?
Nah, dude.
Well,
I got like 5 that I like.
Here's the thing that I do like about this. I never played it, but I watched the 60% of a LP like a couple years ago, and I lost track of it, and I need to go back and finish it. Of Suikoden 2, specifically. But it seemed like a character didn't have to be in your team to mean something to your mission. And I thought that was good. Like, because they went back to your base, and then they did things at your base. Like, they were farmers or stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, I like what you're doing here. You're never going to see combat again, but like I'm going to see you and talk to you all the time because I'm going to be, like, getting your vegetables or some shit, you know? So that I liked how that went down. For all the shit interesting question is, what about FFX2? That had exactly 3 playable characters, unless I missed something because I only ever got a few hours into that game. But I'm pretty sure it's just a 3.
You missed the part where Tita shows up cross-dressing.
You
believe
missed
it.
the part where Waka shows up cross-dressing.
I mean,
anyway,
like
continue.
I was always a little sad that Lulu didn't come back, but like my ship happened, so it's okay. I liked the 3 characters that were there, so it kind of worked out, but it kind of limited. Like they could have had more characters in the game, potentially. It wasn't designed to be anything more than a romp of 3 ladies, which is cool on its own right. But like, that's the ultimate to that one direction. Is that like, there's no character left behind because we only got the 3.
So you're talking like the FF5 Bravely Default, these are the characters you have kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is much more easily done in class-changing games. But yeah, Final Fantasy X-2 had a very poor story, but it made up for it. And I've said this before in other casts, but it has the best ATB that has ever been done ever. And one of the best class-changing systems too, because the ability to change class mid-combat is amazing. And then get buffs from doing so. You can set up some really crazy combos. The battle system in that game is like 11 out of 10. It's just everything else is just kind of as a result.
Are you suggesting it may be a 10-2 out of 10?
Yeah, I'll give that one to you.
For me, it's like I said, I kind of see this in like 2 different important things. It's a game. There are games that are focused on combat, like tactics, where everything happens on the battlefield or maybe some short cutscenes. But in a lot of like modernish RPGs, or even maybe computer RPGs, there's a lot of stuff that happens outside of combat, like utility characters, like characters that can like hack or that can talk really good or can just do stuff that have skills essentially.
So you're talking
Or if you-
like Shadowrun and Baldur's Gate and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, where you can, or just any sort of D&D based game. But yeah, where you can talk or do other skills outside of combat. And for games that have like characters that have utility outside of combat, I kind of like characters that are more individual or specialized rather than class characters. As long as my main character is a blank slate.
Okay,
So-
fair enough.
Because if you have a character, like I'm thinking of like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, or a lot of BioWare stuff, where you have characters that are like, this is their thing. Like you have a Wookiee or something. Like Wookiee is like a scout, so he can only do these specific things. Like he's not going to be a Jedi and using Force powers. And then you have like Mission, who's like good at hacking, like a scoundrel, like really good at the blaster, or even a sword or whatever. But she's not like doing super heavy damage or combat. But her utility is that she's good with technology. In that game, you only get like 2 people with you, so you're a 3-person party. But your main character, I feel like, has to be a sort of blank slate for that to be viable. Because if you get only set in stone characters, then you have to work with that confine of like what you have. Whereas if the characters don't have a lot of utility outside of combat, where it's just like combat, move, talk, then I would rather prefer a game that has class-based things and maybe lets you change them and maybe not be so individualistic.
That's fair. Yeah, I know for Coder, what I did is I just ran the skill monkey and then I had 2 damage dealers. So didn't matter if it was computers or lockpicking or talking. It didn't matter what it was. I could do it all, but I couldn't hit for like any damage. So that's what my bodyguards were for. So
yeah, that's what I liked it too, because I didn't like missing anything. I wanted to see what was in everything.
Yep. So no, I feel you. I feel you there. But no, I don't know. When it comes down to it, I like to have that complete control over everything. That's why one of my favorite, very minor changes that happened in in Chrono Trigger is for like the first half to 2/3 of the game. You know, Chrono is the main character. He's in your team. He's there. Yada yada yada. When this is not going to be spoilers. When he dies, and then you bring him back.
Oh, totally not spoilers, Red.
Whatever. Look, that game is old. If you haven't played that game, I'm sorry, but spoilers. Anyway.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. But when he comes back, he's no longer mandatory. You don't have to have him in your team anymore at that point. So if you want to run the 3 girls, which I did, then then go for it. Ayla's better Chrono anyway. She punches harder. That means she's better. But
yeah, it's totally a
Subjectively
shame for all
speaking.
those people who like gave all those stat up tabs to Chrono at the start. Yeah, that was me.
well, I mean, you could still use him, but I don't know. I like because the girls are nice because on all the New Games Plus, then you get them like 3 prism dresses, and then they just win because they don't ever die.
Yeah, well, like I was a dumb young gamer. Okay,
Well, yeah.
I always gave the stat ups to the main guy, and then the main guy died, and then I was like, nah, I'll not play anymore.
See, here's the weird thing about stat ups is I never use them, like ever. They just sit in my inventory because I'm always like, I'm gonna save them till I know I'm gonna need them, and then I'll have like this huge boost in power. But then I just don't, and I just play the whole game without them. So
We really should have a podcast of item usage, because please.
This happened at another podcast at almost exactly the same
This
time.
happened 3
We
times
talked-
already. I'm pretty sure.
I was also in one of those, which is there's only been 2.
Yeah.
We need to make it happen.
but I don't know. As far as character and party composition goes, I mean, I think it's really important to kind of have one goal or the other, as far as having them, be specialized in a certain area and having that individualized characters without having anyone overshadow anyone else if you can help it. or be class-based, freeform, etc. Kind of like how Final Fantasy V did, because they had all the characters, they were all had their own personalities, they were all their own individual people, but, you know, you could have Bart's, you know, strut in his tuxedo doing dance moves if you wanted to. I don't know why you would, but you could.
Yep.
Now here's a question I've always wondered, just real quick, because this is probably not going to go very far.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a purpose to having a party in a narrative game? Like in a non-combat game? Because I know there are people who, in the general, that are kind of making some non-combat games, and I'm wondering what's the purpose of having like a party?
There are some. There are some games
And
that
can it
work.
be done?
Well,
there's
I
some-
will go with my fave RPG dev ever, Nami, who has done one. Well, no, I actually haven't played all her RPG Maker games, but her big series, the Lonely Wolf Trick series, has had one combat instance, which basically boils down to you hit attack once and you win. Like it's just essentially a scripted fight. I think there's a slight chance you could like do a defend, and it changes slightly how things go. But basically, party doesn't ever matter. But she still uses parties at a time, mostly just to represent who's there for the conversation. And even though the games are very visual novel styled RPG Maker games, like they have a very linear flow because they're mostly telling a story. It is interesting to have the party there. Party composition, quote unquote, isn't necessarily important, but it does allow for a few things, for a few like Easter eggs. Like you can go into their information and they still have classes, which are usually just fun little things that help explain about the character.
So in that vein, I think I could bring up Deus Ex here and then have someone reinstall it because it was mentioned again. But from a gameplay standpoint, you could split up all those skills into different party members. You know, like if you've ever played the video game The Lost Vikings, the whole point of the game is that each Viking does something different, which allows you to progress and solve puzzles. So, you know, in the Deus Ex kind of way, there could be a problem in front of you, and depending on which party members you had, you would have to find a different solution.
Your Og.
True.
Yeah, and also in that vein, if you just wanted to go from a pure narrative standpoint, everyone in your party could react to something in a different way, you know, because it's a party of characters, you know, they're not just going to sit there silently and walk behind you, they can react to things that are going on, and if one of them is, you know, emotionally involved, if they're related to the big bad or whatever's going on, or if they don't know something, like if you have your party built and none of them are like a scholarly type who understands what's going on, then you have to go figure that out, or you just get wiped when you walk up to the final boss or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. As far as having different characters in a non-combat game, one, basically, yeah, just dialogue options. If you have people that are more invested in a certain situation, bringing them in could provide something a little more entertaining. And then also, yeah, if you've got situations where there is a way to get through the store, but none of the people that you have know how to, and the person who could pick the lock or could hack the security system, depending on your, era you're in, you left back at home, you've got to figure out a way to find the battering ram to break down the door. You got to go through a bunch of other steps. So it's possible, and it works. So
Yeah.
So then, do you think the combat is essentially replaced by like puzzles?
Yeah, I would say so. Puzzles and maybe dialogue.
I'd like to mention Ib, I guess. IB is the spelling.
Yep.
I think it's an RPG Maker game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, like, I don't remember. It's been a long time, but like, it's pretty narrative, and like you start with Ib, the girl, and then like you can like meet other people that are lost in whatever hellscape that was. Like, I'm pretty sure whoever's listening is already familiar with the horror puzzle type genre or whatever. It's that sort of game, and they have a party thing for when when you met someone, or if someone like separates from the other character or whatever, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that because, it's just Eve by herself. And then when you get Gary into the party, not only does Gary, push around big statues that Eve can't push by herself, but he also can read all the big words on the titles for the paintings that she can't.
Yes.
A clunky version of this that didn't work as well as people were hoping it would was The Cave, which is not RPG
Cave.
Maker, but it was
Made by Double Fine Games.
Yeah. Like it was kind of neat, but and you got to pick a group of 3 to bring with you. Then those 3 people helped you do your puzzles as you went through, and the puzzles, you would go through each of their special sets of puzzles, but it would end up that it didn't really matter who the other 2 people were, type of thing. The other 2 abilities didn't end up helping you, but it almost was good on that end.
Almost, but
Right.
not quite.
That was a big issue with The Cave, because okay, let's say you had the scientist, right? And then you have the scientist and 2 other people. When you get to the scientist stage, only the scientist has scientist powers, and the other 2 guys you have are basically just paperweights that you drag around and move
Yeah. Yep.
to open doors or whatnot.
My specialties include flower arranging and crossword puzzles.
And also
Yeah.
standing on switches when directed.
Yeah, and each of the specialized stages are basically just that. It's a lame way to do it. I mean, yeah, it worked, I guess, but it's kind of lame.
I mean, obviously the concern was if you set up a puzzle that needed something from a different person, then you would run into the problem of what if they didn't pick that person to come along with. If you didn't solve this problem, don't make the game. There's probably something that could be done so that you could make sure that no matter what composition you had, there was things that you had to have a second and or third person, and they were not exactly interchangeable. The puzzle was solved differently.
Yeah.
But that would have been really difficult. But that's what you putting forth as what the game should be, and it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah,
so
the way
basically,
they did it is the lazy solution.
right. I was gonna say, don't be a
good.
cop out. If you're gonna do something and you say you're gonna do it that way. Game that came out that's about space exploration that I didn't play.
Yeah, that probably
Spore?
is relevant.
No Man's Sky. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, yeah. Spore was a better love story.
I loved Spore. I still never got to the center of their galaxy because I just wanted to go through the
I did.
whole creature
It's
stage
not worth
again.
it.
Once you make a penis monster, that's the core of the game.
No,
Make your
the
penis
thing is you have
monster.
to make them sentient and civilized penis monsters.
I always just made Sasquatches. They always just looked like Sasquatch. They were big and hairy, had big hands and big feet and mouths.
I was always just amazed that you could have a penis monster walk around on its balls, then shoot things out of its head. So it's wow. I bet nobody's done this before.
That's great.
I always just slapped on whatever had the best stats. So all of my creatures had 3 sets of legs, 5 sets of arms.
Because fuck biology, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I learned that from
I'm the
Impossible
apex
Creatures.
predator and apex socializer. What are you gonna do now, nature?
Man, with 3 sets of legs, he must have been a real good dancer. Could attract some mates.
Mm-hmm.
My penis monster didn't need arms. It just reach out and nom things with its horrific head. With big fangs and shit. Didn't need
Man.
arms. It could advance without arms. It just had ball legs.
Oh
I
my-
remember. I remember when I tried to defy the penis race, and so I made a race of living toilets, and that was how advanced my race was.
Okay. Thank you all for listening to the Spore General podcast.
I mean,
Did we
we're
even
still
talk about
kind
the
of on
topic at
party
all?
composition.
We're literally composing them from cells. God. All right. Is this a
No,
good
we
spot?
have-
What?
God damn it! Fuck.
No, we have
All right.
what?
Are you suggesting we're gonna cut the penis
No, what? You?
jokes?
No, that was bad. Go to hell. Go directly to hell.
circus
Do not pass
joke.
go. Do not collect 200 space bucks.
All right,
It's
let's
a
redo the outro there.
All right, but first, Robin, what were you saying?
Oh God. Jesus, I forgot already.
Okay. Well, in that case, this has been the RPG Maker General Podcast or the RPGMGP. This is Cody. We'll see y'all next time.
This is Red Mage. See y'all later.
This is Mono.
Mono.
Bye. Oh no! Don't make me edit this.
But
Go
Okay, Cody, you edited.
Alright. This has been the Devil's Avocado, otherwise known as Bradley, from the Evil Guacamole Gaming.
This is Blue Sky Robin. I'm obviously terrible.
woo!